The kick that echoed. The mall smelled like cinnamon pretzels and expensive perfume. Sweet, fake comfort floating over polished floors that reflected everyone's lives back at them like a mirror they couldn't escape. Amina Halim stood near the baby clothes section, holding a small paper bag with a pair of socks inside. Soft gray, stitched with tiny stars. She hadn't even noticed she was smiling until she caught a reflection in the store's glass window. It was a new kind of smile, not the kind that begged for permission, not the kind that apologized for existing. She touched the thin gold band on her finger, almost unconsciously, like she was reassuring herself that it was real. "Excuse me, ma'am," the cashier said gently. "Would you like a gift receipt too?" Amina blinked, pulled her thoughts back into present. "Yes, please." The cashier printed it and slid it into the bag. "Congratulations," she added, nodding at Amina's hand. "Newly married?" Amina's cheeks warmed. "Yes." The cashier smiled wide. "May Allah keep you happy." Amina thanked her and turned to leave, stepping into wide open space of the mall corridor where people streamed past. Teenagers laughing, mothers pushing strollers, couples holding hands like their fingers had always belonged together. Amina walked slowly, not because she was tired, but because she was learning how to move through the world without fear. That was when the air shifted. It wasn't dramatic. No thunder. No music. Just a subtle change in temperature, like a door opening somewhere behind her. Amina paused near a jewelry kiosk and glanced down at a display of watches. Her eyes caught a black dial with gold accents, something her husband would like, and she reached out. "Careful," a deep male voice said from behind. "You might get fingerprints on it. They hate that." Amina's hand froze above the glass. That voice, her chest tightened so suddenly she could barely breathe. She turned slowly, as if her body didn't want her to confirm what her heart already knew. Ryan Qureshi stood there like a memory that had learned how to become flesh again. Same sharp jaw, same confident stance, same eyes that always looked at people like they were either useful or in the way. Except now he wore a crisp designer jacket and a watch big enough to announce his ego from across the room. His hair was styled like he'd just come from a meeting that mattered. And on his arm, pressed close to him like an accessory, was a woman with glossy hair and a smile full of teeth. The woman looked Amina up and down in one sweep, her gaze stopping on Amina's simple dress, her plain sandals, and the little paper bag. Ryan's eyes narrowed, then widened, then narrowed again. "Amina," he said, as if he found an old coin in his pocket and wasn't sure if it was worth anything. Amina's throat went dry. "Ryan." The woman on his arm tilted her head. "Who is she?" Ryan didn't answer her at first. He stared at Amina's face like he was searching for proof that time had been real. "You're here," he said slowly. "Of course you are." Amina's fingers tightened around her bag. "I could say the same." Ryan let out a short laugh. "No, you couldn't. I belong here." The woman smirked. "Babe, do we know her?" Ryan finally looked at the woman, like she was interrupting a show. "She's my ex." The woman's eyebrows lifted with sudden interest. "Your XX?" Ryan's mouth twisted. "The one who used to cry over everything." Amina's chest fluttered with something sharp. Not pain, anger, but she kept her voice calm. "I'm not here to talk to you." Ryan stepped closer, a few inches at a time, like a predator enjoying the slow part. "Really? After all those years you spent begging me to look at you?" Amina's eyes stayed steady. "I never begged you. I just believed you." That made Ryan's nostrils flare. He didn't like being reminded that he'd once been trusted. He glanced down at her bag and scoffed. "What's that? Buying cheap socks? Still living in struggle?" The woman laughed softly, covering her mouth like it was polite. Amina didn't answer. Ryan leaned in, lowering his voice, sharp like a blade. "Let me guess. You married some poor man who thinks you're a prize because he doesn't know what you really are." Amina's jaw tightened. "You're done." She turned to leave. Ryan's face changed, something ugly and entitled crawling across it. He reached out and grabbed her wrist. Amina snapped her arm back. Startled, people looked. Ryan's voice got louder, designed for an audience. "Oh, don't walk away." You don't get to act proud now. Not after everything. Amina's heart hammered. The mall felt too open suddenly, like everyone could see inside her past. "What do you want, Ryan?" she asked, still calm, but her eyes burned. Ryan's lips curled. "I want you to remember who you were." He stepped forward into her space. The woman on his arm watched like it was entertainment. Amina took a step back. Ryan's expression sharpened with delight. Like fear was the only language he spoke fluently. Then he did it. A quick, cruel movement. He lifted his foot and kicked her shin, hard enough that pain shot up her leg and her knee buckled. Amina gasped and stumbled sideways, grabbing the edge of the kiosk to keep from falling. The paper bag slipped from her hand and hit the floor. The tiny sock spilled out, one rolling like a small, helpless thing across the polished tiles. For a second, the mall went quiet in Amina's ears. Not because it actually got quiet, but because her humiliation was louder than everything. Ryan exhaled like he just won something. "There," he said. "Now you're back where you belong." The woman laughed, louder this time. "Oh my God, Ryan." Amina's hands shook as she steadied herself. Her eyes watered, but she refused to let a tear fall. She bent down slowly and picked up the socks. Her fingers lingered on the tiny stars. Something inside her snapped into place, not broken, but forged. She stood up. Ryan expected her to cry, to shout, to beg. But Amina only looked at him, her gaze so steady it made his smile falter. "You're still the same," she said quietly. Ryan scoffed, hiding discomfort. "And you're still nothing." Amina's lips lifted into the smallest smile. "You really have no idea." Ryan's eyes narrowed. "No idea about what?" Amina took one step back, then another, her posture straight despite the ache in her leg. She turned to leave again. Ryan's voice followed her like poison. "Hey, you don't just walk away from me." Amina didn't stop. Ryan's anger spiked. "Amina, I swear, if you keep acting like you're better." Amina finally turned her head slightly, her voice calm but sharp enough to cut glass. "You kicked me in public," she said. "Congratulations. That's the biggest thing you've done in years." His face reddened. The woman tugged his arm. "Babe, let's go. People are staring." Ryan jerked his arm free. "No, I'm not done." He started after Amina, faster now, like control slipping through his fingers. Amina walked toward the mall's main entrance where sunlight poured through tall glass doors. Her phone buzzed in her handbag. One message, a name on the screen that made her heartbeat change. Hassan. She didn't answer it yet. Ryan caught up and grabbed her shoulder from behind. Amina spun around, eyes blazing. "What?" she snapped. Ryan leaned in close, his breath smelling like coffee and arrogance. "You think you can just pretend you're someone now? Tell me the truth. Who are you married to?" Amina stared at him, and for a heartbeat she considered telling him. Then she remembered how he'd laughed while she packed her bag years ago, how he called her dead weight, how he'd left her in an empty apartment with unpaid rent and a heart full of shame. Amina smiled again, this time wider. "You'll find out," she said. Ryan's eyes darkened. "Not from you." He pulled out his phone, thumb moving fast, calling someone. Amina turned away and walked again, this time faster. Behind her, she heard Ryan's voice, low and urgent. "Listen," he said into the phone. "I just saw her. Yeah, Amina, the one I told you about. I want everything. Where she lives, who she's with. I want it today." Amina's fingers tightened around her own phone. She opened Hassan's message. It was short. "Where are you, my love? I'm at the mall entrance. I wanted to surprise you." Amina's breath caught. She lifted her gaze toward the glass doors, and through the bright sunlight, she saw him, a tall man in a charcoal suit that looked like it was stitched by certainty. Calm posture, clean watch, a presence that made people unconsciously step aside. Hassan al-Mansour, the billionaire the world loved to photograph. Her husband. He stood near the entrance with a small bouquet of white flowers in his hand, scanning the crowd. Amina's heart raced, not with fear this time, but with something powerful. Behind her, Ryan ended his call and watched her too. His eyes followed her line of sight toward the entrance. Then he saw Hassan, and the color drained from Ryan's face. His lips parted. "No," he whispered. Amina took another step toward Hassan, her shin still throbbing, her dignity still intact. Ryan's voice cracked as he stared. That's not possible." Amina didn't look back, but she heard him, heard the panic rising. "Amina!" Ryan shouted. "Wait!" Hassan finally spotted her and smiled. Soft, real, the kind of smile that felt like safety. Amina moved toward him, and Ryan, shaking, ran after her, desperation turning his feet into weapons. Just as Amina reached Hassan, Ryan lunged and grabbed Amina's arm again, yanking her back hard. Hassan's smile vanished instantly. His eyes sharpened. His voice dropped into something dangerously calm. "Let her go," Hassan said. Ryan froze, his fingers still gripping Amina's arm, his eyes wide, darting between her ring and Hassan's face like he was staring at a nightmare that had turned real. Amina's pulse thundered, and Ryan, still holding her, swallowed hard and whispered the words that made the whole moment explode into a new level of danger. Who are you to her?" Hassan stepped closer, his gaze never leaving Ryan's hand on Amina's arm. "I'm her husband," Hassan said, "and you're about to regret touching my wife." Ryan's hand trembled, but he didn't let go. Not yet. And Amina realized in that second that Ryan wasn't just embarrassed. He was angry enough to do something reckless. The man who thought he owned her. Ryan's fingers bit into Amina's arm like a claim he refused to release. The crowd near the entrance slowed, heads turning in that half-curious, half-fearful way people look when trouble becomes live entertainment. Hassan al-Mansur didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His calm was its own kind of threat. He stepped forward once, measured, controlled, until he was close enough that Ryan could see the small scar near Hassan's brow and the quiet hardness in his eyes. "Let her go," Hassan repeated, softer now. Ryan swallowed. A sheen of sweat appeared at his hairline. But he forced a laugh anyway, as if laughter could protect him from consequences. "Your wife," Ryan scoffed, flicking his gaze at Amina's ring again. "This is a joke. You think I don't know her? She's..." Amina's voice cut through, steady and cold. "Don't." It surprised even her, how strong it sounded. Ryan's jaw clenched. "Don't what?" "Don't say what you used to say," Amina replied, "because I'm not that woman anymore." Hassan's eyes softened for a moment, just for her, then hardened again at Ryan. "Sir," he said, polite like a blade wrapped in silk, "remove your hand from my wife." Ryan's grip tightened with a childish defiance. "You don't get to tell me what to do. This is between me and her." Hassan took one more step. The bouquet in his hand looked absurdly gentle compared to the tension radiating from him. "It stopped being between you two when you put your hands on her in public," Hassan said. "Now it's between you and the law." Ryan's eyes darted around. He noticed the phones, the whispers, the security cameras mounted above the storefronts like silent witnesses. He tried to regain control by shifting his stance and dragging Amina half a step behind him again, like she was a prop in his argument. Amina winced, not from the pull, but from a memory it dragged up. Years of being yanked by her wrist, talked over, made small. Years of swallowing her pride because she thought love meant endurance. Her shin still throbbed from the kick. It would leave a bruise by evening. Hassan's gaze flicked down, saw the tension in her posture, the faint trembling in her breath. "You're hurt," he said quietly. Amina shook her head once, stubborn. "I'm fine." But Hassan's eyes were no longer just angry. They were focused, like a man who had decided the world would correct itself, even if he had to bend it. "Ryan Qureshi," Hassan said, saying his name like he'd already memorized it for a court document. "Release her." Ryan flinched at hearing his name from Hassan's mouth, like Hassan's words had weight and his didn't. "How do you even know my name?" Ryan demanded. Hassan's expression didn't change. "I don't need to know much to know you're making a mistake." Ryan's laugh came out sharp and desperate. "A mistake? You think you know her? She's dramatic. She loves playing victim. She... Amina's voice rose, finally letting emotion show. You kicked me. The sentence hung in the air like smoke. The crowd reacted. Soft gasps, a few angry murmurs. Someone muttered, "Did he really?" Ryan's eyes widened, and for the first time he realized the story wasn't his to control anymore. He started, then hardened again. She deserved it. Hassan's face went still in a way that made the hairs on Amina's neck rise. He set the bouquet down on a nearby bench with careful precision, as if he didn't want flowers to witness what came next. Amina felt a chill crawl over her skin. Hassan leaned forward slightly. "Say that again," he said. Ryan's voice faltered. "What?" "Say," Hassan repeated, "that my wife deserved to be kicked." Ryan's pride fought with his fear. Pride won, because pride always does right before the fall. "She deserved it," Ryan said louder. "She's ungrateful. She left when I was building my life." Amina's head snapped up. "You abandoned me." Ryan shouted back, "I gave you a roof." Amina's laugh, one short, bitter sound, escaped. "A roof? You left me in an apartment you hadn't paid for in 3 months. I woke up to eviction notices. My phone was cut. You blocked my number and called it, moving on." Silence. The crowd didn't just watch now. They listened. Ryan's girlfriend, still standing a few steps away, shifted uncomfortably. Her smile had disappeared. For the first time, she looked at Ryan like she didn't recognize him. Ryan noticed her expression and turned his anger into performance again. "She's lying," he said quickly, too quickly. "She's always been good at making herself look innocent." Amina's eyes burned. She pulled her arm once, trying to free herself. Ryan yanked her back, harder this time, making her stumble. That was enough. Hassan moved, not like a brawler, like a man trained to keep his control even while taking yours. He grabbed Ryan's wrist, firm, exact, and twisted just enough that pain forced Ryan's fingers to unclamp. Ryan yelped, bending forward instinctively. Amina stumbled free, her arm tingling where his fingers had been. Hassan stepped between them immediately, a wall of calm menace. "Touch her again," he said, voice low, "and I promise you'll regret it longer than you think you'll live." Ryan clutched his wrist, eyes wide with humiliation. "You can't. Do you know who I am?" Hassan tilted his head slightly. "A man who kicks women at a mall," he replied. "That's who you are." Ryan's face turned crimson. "I'm not scared of you. Money doesn't scare me." Hassan's lips barely moved. "Good, because what's coming isn't about money." Said, "You're acting like she's some queen now." "She's nothing. She was nothing. She will always be." Hassan's voice cut him off like a judge's gavel. "Stop." It wasn't shouted. It was worse than shouted. The security guard stepped closer to Ryan. "Sir, I need you to come with me." Ryan jerked his arm back. "No, I'm not going anywhere." Hassan didn't move, but his presence made the air feel heavier. Amina's phone buzzed again in her hand. A new message, not from Hassan, from an unknown number. "We have the old photos. Want them to see her past." Amina's blood turned cold. Her fingers trembled as she stared at the screen. Ryan's voice was still arguing with security, still trying to play victim, still refusing to lose. But Amina barely heard him now, because someone Ryan had called already had their next move prepared, and it wasn't a public kick. It was a private destruction. Amina looked up at Hassan, wanting to speak, wanting to warn him. But at that exact moment, Ryan shouted, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Fine, arrest me. But when the world finds out who she really is, you'll regret marrying her." Hassan's eyes flicked to Amina's face, searching. Amina swallowed hard, and the unknown number sent one more message, immediately after the first. "Tomorrow, press conference. We leak everything." Amina's breath caught. Hassan stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "What's wrong?" he asked. Amina stared at the phone screen, then up at the crowd, then back at Ryan's furious face. Her past, the one she survived, was about to be weaponized. And Ryan was smiling like a man who thought he'd found his way back into control. When the past tries to burn the present, the words, "Tell him about the night you begged me," echoed louder than Ryan probably intended. Not because he shouted well, but because the silence had decided to listen. Every sound in the mall, the footsteps, the music, the chatter, felt distant, muffled by the weight of what he'd just thrown into the air like a match. Amina felt it land in her chest. Not pain, pressure, the kind that comes right before something either shatters or transforms. Hassan didn't look at Ryan. He looked at Amina, and that difference mattered more than Ryan would ever understand. "Do you want to leave?" Hassan asked quietly. Amina blinked, surprised, not by the question, but by the respect in it. She glanced at the crowd, at the phone still raised, at the security guard holding Ryan at arm's length, at the girlfriend who now looked like she wished the floor would swallow her whole. And then Amina looked back at Ryan, at the man who had once convinced her she was unlovable. "No," she said. Her voice didn't shake. "I don't want to leave." Ryan laughed, sharp and triumphant. "Oh, now she's brave." Hassan's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent. Amina stepped forward, past Hassan's shoulder, put herself back into the center of the moment. People murmured. Some expected tears. Some expected drama. What they got was truth. "You want to talk about that night?" Amina said, her eyes locking onto Ryan's. "Let's talk about it." Ryan's smile faltered for a split second. Amina continued before he could interrupt. "That night," she said, "was the night you packed your bags without telling me. The night I came home from work and found the apartment half empty. The night the electricity shut off because you hadn't paid the bill and you knew I couldn't cover it alone." Ryan opened his mouth. Amina raised a hand, not asking permission, taking space. "I begged," she said calmly, "not because I wanted you, but because I was scared. I had nowhere to go. I had no family in the city. And you stood there, holding your phone, smiling at messages from another woman while I cried on the floor." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Ryan's girlfriend sucked in a sharp breath. Amina went on. "You told me I was weak, that I was lucky anyone had ever tolerated me. You said no one would ever choose me once they saw who I really was." Her voice hardened. "That was the night you taught me the difference between love and survival." Ryan snapped, "You're twisting it." Amina turned slightly toward the security guard and the people filming. "Am I?" Someone in the crowd spoke up. "Man, that's messed up." Ryan's face flushed. "She's manipulating you all. This is what she does." Hassan finally spoke, but not to Ryan, to everyone else. "She doesn't need to manipulate anyone," Hassan said evenly. "She's telling the truth." Ryan's eyes snapped at him. "And how would you know? You met her after everything." Hassan stepped forward now, standing beside Amina, not in front of her. "Because," he said, "I met the woman she became after surviving you." That landed harder than any insult. Ryan scoffed, desperate to regain footing. "Oh, please. You think you saved her? She would have stayed with me if she could." Amina smiled, not kindly. "No," she said. "I stayed with myself." The crowd murmured again, this time with approval. Ryan shook his head violently. "This is a circus. You want her so bad? Fine. Have her. But don't act like she doesn't come with a pass." Amina lifted her chin. "Everyone does." Ryan's eyes flickered with calculation. He leaned back toward the security guard, feigning calm. "You going to arrest me or what?" The guard hesitated. "Sir, we'll need statements." Ryan interrupted loudly. "Good, because I have some statements too." He turned to Amina, lowering his voice just enough to make it threatening. "You think you won?" he said. "This is just the beginning." Amina's phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. Photo scheduled for release at 9 a.m. Interviews lined up. Her pulse spiked. Hassan noticed the change immediately. Amina, she looked at him, eyes dark with something new. Not fear, but resolve. "He's not done," she said quietly. Hassan nodded once. "Neither are we." Ryan was escorted a few steps away, but he twisted back. calling out loudly, "You think your billionaire husband can erase who you were?" Amina's lips curved slightly. "He doesn't have to." Ryan laughed bitterly. "We'll see." The girlfriend finally spoke, her voice trembling. "Ryan, what photos?" Ryan snapped at her again. "I told you to stay out of it." She stepped back from him instinctively. The security guard frowned. "Sir, you need to calm down." Ryan pulled his arm free. "I am calm. She's the one pretending to be a saint." Amina inhaled deeply. This was the moment she used to dread. The moment where silence felt safer than truth. But that woman, the one who stayed quiet, was gone. "You want to show my past?" Amina said loudly, addressing Ryan and the crowd. "Go ahead." Ryan froze. Hassan glanced at her, surprised. "Amina." She touched his hand briefly, grounding both of them. "It's okay." She turned back to Ryan. "You think my past is shameful because it reminds you of your cruelty. But my past is proof that I survived you." Ryan's jaw tightened. "You're bluffing." Amina smiled. "I'm not." The guard cleared his throat. "Ma'am, if you'd like to file charges." "I will," Amina said immediately, "for assault." Ryan laughed again, but there was panic underneath it now. "You think that'll stop what's coming?" Amina met his gaze. "No, but it will show everyone who you are." The crowd began dispersing slowly, buzzing with commentary. Clips already being uploaded, narratives forming in real time. Hassan picked up the bouquet from the bench and handed it back to Amina gently. "I was going to surprise you," he said softly. "I didn't plan on this." She took the flowers, eyes softening. "Life doesn't ask permission." Ryan was being pulled farther away now, but he kept shouting, "You married money because you're empty." Amina raised her voice one last time. "I married peace." That shut him up. For now. Later that evening, Amina and Hassan sat in the quiet of their living room. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked a city that never slept. Amina finally told him everything. Not in fragments. Not softened. Everything. Hassan listened without interrupting, without judgment, his hand never leaving hers. When she finished, silence settled between them. Not heavy, but thoughtful. Hassan spoke first. "What photos does he have?" Amina exhaled slowly. "Old ones. When I worked 3 jobs. When I was exhausted. When I cried. When I wasn't polished." Hassan's brow furrowed. "Nothing illegal?" "No." "Nothing shameful?" Amina looked down, then up again. "Only if someone wants to shame survival." Hassan nodded. "Then let him leak them." Amina blinked. "What?" Hassan's voice was calm, strategic. "If he controls the release, he controls the story. If we do, he loses power." Amina stared at him. "You want to expose my past on purpose?" Hassan squeezed her hand. "I want to expose his lies." She felt a chill, not fear but anticipation. "And the press conference?" Amina asked. Hassan's lips curved slightly. "We'll hold one first." Amina's breath caught. "Tonight?" Hassan nodded. "Tonight." Her phone buzzed again, this time with a notification. A headline draft, leaked early by someone impatient. "Billionaire's wife accused of dark past by ex-lover." Amina stared at the screen. Her image, pulled from somewhere, already circulating. Hassan stood, eyes sharp now, not angry, but focused. "They wanted a spectacle," he said. "We'll give them the truth." Amina stood too. Her past was knocking loudly. And this time, she wasn't going to hide from it. The lie he thought would break her. Ryan's words still hung in the air long after he'd shouted them. "Tell him about the night you begged me." As if the mall itself had inhaled and forgotten how to breathe, Amina stood perfectly still. For years, moments like this had owned her, controlled her pulse, bent her spine. But now something inside her refused to shrink. Hassan didn't move ahead of her. He didn't shield her like she was fragile. He stayed beside her. That choice alone rewrote everything. "You don't have to say anything," Hassan murmured, just loud enough for her to hear. "Only what you choose." Ryan scoffed, the sound sharp and theatrical. "See? Even now, she needs permission. Amina turned slowly toward him. No, she said. I need truth. The crowd leaned in, not physically, but emotionally. Phone stayed raised. Whispers spread like ripples in water. Ryan smirked, convinced he still held the upper hand. Go on then. Tell him. Tell everyone how you cried on your knees. How you begged me not to leave. Amina nodded once. I did, she said simply. Ryan's smile widened. But, she continued, not the way you're telling it. The smile faltered. Amina took a breath, not to steady herself, but to ground the words that had waited years to be spoken. That night, she said, I came home after a double shift. I was exhausted. I hadn't eaten since morning, and I found our apartment empty. Half the furniture gone. The TV, your clothes, your books, even the spare change jar. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. I didn't beg you to stay because I loved you, Amina said, voice calm but cutting. I begged because I was scared, because you'd drained the account, because you'd promised to pay the rent, because I didn't know where I'd sleep the next night. Someone in the crowd muttered, Damn. Ryan snapped. You're exaggerating. Amina's eyes didn't leave his. Am I? Or are you just hearing it without your excuses this time? Hassan's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent. You stood there, Amina continued, and told me I was replaceable, that I was lucky you'd stayed as long as you did. You said no one else would want me once they saw how needy I was. Ryan's girlfriend, who had been standing off to the side, arms crossed, stared at him now with something dangerously close to disbelief. You never told me this, she whispered. Ryan spun on her. Because it's not true. Amina laughed once, short, humorless. You don't even remember what you said, do you? Ryan turned back to the crowd, flustered. She's trying to destroy me. No, Amina said, you did that yourself. I just stopped protecting you. The security guard stepped closer again. Sir, I'm going to need you to lower your voice. Ryan ignored him, pointing at Amina. You think because you married rich you can rewrite history? Amina lifted her hand slightly, showing the ring, not flashing it, not boasting, just existing. I didn't marry money, she said. I married someone who listens. Hassan finally spoke, his voice even dangerous in its restraint, and someone who believes her. Ryan laughed again, but it cracked midway. Believes her? You believe everything she says? Ask her why she stayed with me so long then. Ask her why she didn't leave earlier if I was so terrible. Amina answered before Hassan could. Because I thought endurance was love, she said. Because I was taught that a woman should be patient even when she's being erased. Because I didn't yet know my worth. Her voice hardened. But that doesn't make your cruelty a misunderstanding. It makes a choice. Ryan's face reddened. You're twisting things. Amina stepped closer, not aggressive, just unafraid. You kicked me today. In public. Over pride. That tells everyone exactly who you are. The crowd murmured louder now. Someone said, we saw it. Another voice, there's video already. Ryan froze for half a second. Then panic turned into fury. You think this ends here? He hissed. You think people won't dig? I've already made calls. Amina's phone buzzed in her hand like it had heard him. She glanced down. Another message from the unknown number. Media has your name. Your past. Old workplace. Old apartment. They'll paint you however they want. Her pulse quickened, but she didn't flinch. She lifted her gaze to Ryan. You called people to humiliate me. Ryan's lips curled. I called people to tell the truth. Hassan turned to him fully now. Then why do anonymously? That question sliced cleanly. Ryan stammered. What? Hassan's voice stayed calm. If you're proud of your truth, why hide behind burner numbers and leaks? Ryan opened his mouth. Closed it. Amina felt something settle in her chest. A realization sharper than anger. He's afraid, she said softly. Ryan snapped. I'm not afraid of anything. Amina tilted her head. You're afraid that without tearing me down, you'll finally have to face the fact that I survived you and became someone you can't touch anymore. The words hit their mark. Ryan's girlfriend stepped back from him completely now. "I don't know who you are," she said quietly. Ryan turned on her. "Don't start." She shook her head. "You kicked a woman in public. You brag about ruining her." "I can't." She walked away. Ryan watched her go, shock flickering across his face. For a moment, he looked small. Then the rage returned. "This isn't over," he spat at Amina. "You don't get a happy ending." Amina met his eyes steadily. "I already have one. You're just not in it." Security finally took firmer hold of Ryan's arm. "Sir, you're coming with us." Ryan resisted for a second, then leaned forward one last time, voice low and poisonous. "You forgot something." Amina didn't look away. "What?" Ryan smiled, slow, deliberate. "I still have proof." Hassan stiffened. "Proof of what?" Ryan's eyes gleamed. "Of the night she begged. On video." The world seemed to tilt. Amina felt the blood drain from her face. Hassan turned sharply to her. "Is that true?" She swallowed. "There was a video," she admitted. "He recorded me crying. Without my consent." Ryan laughed, victorious. "See? You married a mess." Hassan's expression didn't change, but something darker moved behind his eyes. "That," Hassan said quietly, "is a crime." Ryan scoffed. "Good luck proving it." Security dragged him farther away now, but his voice carried. "You think the public cares about consent?" he shouted. "They care about drama." That night, the internet moved fast. Anonymous tips flooded inboxes. Speculation exploded. A headline trended within hours. "Billionaire's wife faces allegations from abusive ex." Amina sat on the edge of her bed later, staring at her phone as notifications stacked endlessly. Hassan sat beside her, silent, steady. "He's going to release it." Amina whispered. Hassan nodded. "Then we won't let him control how." She looked up at him, eyes searching. "What if they believe him?" Hassan answered without hesitation. "Then we teach them how truth actually sounds." Her phone rang again. Unknown number. A final message appeared, shorter than the rest. "Tomorrow morning. Full release. Hope you're ready to be exposed." Amina closed her eyes. For the first time in years, she didn't feel ashamed. She felt ready. But Ryan wasn't finished. And whatever he planned to release next was bigger than words. When truth walks into the fire, dawn crept in slowly, like it wasn't sure it wanted to witness what the day was about to bring. The city outside the floor-to-ceiling windows glowed pale gray, buildings rising like silent judges. Amina stood barefoot on the cool marble floor, holding her phone so tightly her fingers ached. The message from the news outlet stared back at her. "Live interview at 7 a.m. Video will air with or without your response." She hadn't slept, not because of fear, but because memories don't sleep when they're being hunted. Hassan stood behind her, adjusting his cufflinks with calm precision, as if this were just another boardroom morning. But Amina knew him well enough now. His calm meant strategy, not detachment. "They don't control the timeline," he said. "We do." Amina turned to face him. "They're threatening to air it." Hassan nodded. "Then we take away its power before they can." She swallowed. "It's humiliating." Hassan met her gaze, unwavering. "No. What's humiliating is a man who secretly records a woman's pain and uses it as leverage years later." Amina exhaled slowly. She had survived worse than public opinion. She just hadn't expected to face it this openly. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a different number. "Ryan, one message. Last chance. Apologize publicly. Say you lied, or I release everything." Amina stared at the screen. For a moment, the old reflex stirred. The urge to placate, to soften, to keep the peace even if it cost her dignity. Then she remembered the kick, the mall floor, the tiny socks rolling away. And something hardened, not cruelly but clearly. She typed back, "Release it." Hassan watched her send the message. A beat of silence passed. Then Hassan smiled faintly. "That's my wife." The studio lights were blinding. Amina sat in the chair opposite the anchor, her hands folded neatly in her lap. The makeup artist had tried to hide the faint bruise on her shin, but Amina had stopped her. "No," she'd said gently. "Leave it." The anchor shuffled papers. Practice neutrality stretched thin by curiosity. "We're live in 5, someone whispered. Amina's heart beat steadily, not fast, not slow. Steady. Hassan stood just off camera, close enough that she could feel his presence like gravity. 3, 2, the red light blinked on. "Good morning," the anchor began. "Today we're joined by Amina Al-Mansour, whose name has been trending overnight after allegations surfaced involving her former partner." Amina lifted her chin slightly. "Yes," she said calmly. "I'm here to talk about that." The anchor blinked, surprised by the interruption, then nodded. "A video allegedly shows you in a distressed state years ago, pleading with your ex. He claims many things." Amina said, "What he doesn't claim is that he recorded that video without my consent." The studio went very still. "That video," Amina continued, "was taken after he abandoned me financially and emotionally. I was crying because I was facing eviction, because I was scared, because the man I trusted had already moved on while I was left cleaning up the damage." The anchor hesitated. "Some critics say—" Amina smiled politely. "Critics are welcome to imagine themselves alone in a dark apartment, utilities shut off, phone disconnected, being told they are worthless. Then we can talk about dignity." Social media exploded in real time. Clips were being shared before the segment even ended. The anchor cleared his throat. "Your ex claims this proves you were unstable." Amina leaned forward slightly. "Crying doesn't make a woman unstable. Exploiting her pain does." The anchor glanced at his monitor, where producers were clearly panicking. "And," Amina added, voice steady, "he kicked me yesterday, in public. That bruise you see is from yesterday, not years ago." A murmur rippled through the control room. The anchor stiffened. "That's a serious accusation." Amina nodded. "It's also on multiple cameras. Mall security. Civilian phones. I've filed a report." Silence. Then, "Ms. Al-Mansour," the anchor said slowly, "are you saying this video is not evidence of who you were, but of who he is?" Amina didn't hesitate. "Exactly." Across town, Ryan sat in his apartment, eyes bloodshot, phone clenched in his hand. He watched the interview unfold. Watched comments scroll faster than he could read. "She's brave. That man is disgusting. Recording someone without consent? Jail." Ryan slammed his phone onto the table. "This wasn't supposed to happen," he muttered. His own phone buzzed nonstop now. Lawyer, friend, sponsor. One message stood out. "We're cutting ties. Don't contact us again." Panic crept in. He opened his laptop, refreshing the video upload page, the one he planned to release triumphantly. It was already flagged. Removed. A warning flashed on the screen. "Content violates platform policies. Non-consensual recording." "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." Another notification. "Police request. Surrender original device used to record footage." Ryan's breath came fast now. For the first time, he felt the ground tilt beneath him. Back at the studio, the interview ended. Amina stood as the cameras shut off. Her knees felt weak, but her spine didn't. Hassan was at her side instantly. "You were incredible," he said quietly. She let out a breath that felt like it had been trapped in her lungs for years. "I told the truth." Hassan nodded, and the truth travels fast. Her phone buzzed again. Not threats this time. Messages from women. Strangers. "Thank you for saying what I couldn't. I thought crime made me weak. I don't anymore. I survived too." Amina pressed a hand to her mouth, overwhelmed. Hassan squeezed her shoulder. "See." They stepped outside. Cameras waited. Reporters shouted questions. Amina didn't run. She didn't hide. She stopped. One reporter called out, "Ms. Al-Mansour, any message for your ex?" Amina turned slowly. "Yes," she said. "You don't get to rewrite my survival as your victory. You lost a moment you thought hurting me would make you powerful." The words traveled far. That evening, the news broke fully. Ex-partner, billionaire's wife under investigation for assault and illegal recording. Ryan's name trended, but not the way he'd imagined. He sat alone now, apartment silent, phone face down. A knock sounded at the door. Sharp, official. He froze. Another knock. Police? A voice called. Open the door. Ryan's heart pounded. The door handle rattled. Outside, sirens wailed faintly in the distance. And miles away, Amina stood on her balcony beside Hassan, the city lights bright beneath them. She felt lighter, but she knew this wasn't the end yet, because justice had started moving, and when it moved, it didn't stop halfway. The quiet victory that changed everything. The city slept differently after the storm. Not louder, not brighter, quieter like it had exhaled. Amina stood on the balcony as dawn returned, the sky washed in soft gold and pale blue. Below, traffic hummed like a distant memory. The chaos of headlines, sirens, and screaming opinions had slowed into something steadier. Truth had a way of doing that once it settled. Behind her, the sliding door opened. Hassan stepped out, 2 cups of tea in his hands. He didn't say anything at first. He just handed her one. Amina wrapped her fingers around the warm cup. "Did you sleep?" he asked gently. "A little," she said. "Better than I thought I would." Hassan leaned against the railing beside her. "That's how you know it's over." She watched the sun climb higher. "Is it?" Hassan glanced at her, thoughtful. "The loud part is, the real work is quieter." Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Not with dread this time, but information. She looked. Court update. Ryan Qureshi charged with assault and illegal recording. Bail denied pending investigation. Amina stared at the words for a long moment. Not triumph. Not relief. Closure. She exhaled slowly. He did this to himself. Hassan nodded. Power always does. The courtroom was not cinematic. No dramatic lighting. No swelling music. Just wooden benches, fluorescent lights, and the sound of truth being spoken without performance. Amina sat straight, hands folded, listening as the judge read the charges. Ryan stood across the room, smaller than she remembered, his designer jacket gone, his arrogance stripped down to restless fear. He didn't look at her. He couldn't. The prosecutor spoke calmly. The evidence was presented cleanly. Security footage from a mall, witness statements, timestamps, platform reports showing the illegal recording. Facts didn't need anger. They simply existed. When Ryan's lawyer attempted to argue provocation, the judge shut it down immediately. Being emotionally wounded, the judge said, does not grant permission to assault or exploit another human being. Amina felt something inside her loosen, not because he was being judged, but because she was finally being heard. The gavel came down. Charges upheld. Trial date set. Ryan was escorted out. This time, no shouting, no threats, just the sound of chains. Amina didn't watch him leave. She didn't need to. Weeks passed. The world moved on, as it always does, but something had shifted underneath. Amina began receiving invitations. Not the glamorous kind, the meaningful ones. Panels, universities, women's shelters. She didn't accept all of them, but she accepted one. The room was small, intimate, no cameras, just women sitting in a circle. Amina stood at the front, nervous for the first time since the mall. Not because of fear, but because responsibility felt heavier than pain. "I'm not here because I'm fearless," she began. "I'm here because I was afraid, and I spoke anyway." A woman in the front row wiped her eyes. Amina continued. "My past was used against me. My tears were turned into weapons. And for a long time, I believed silence was safety." She paused. "It isn't. It's just a slower kind of harm." The room was still. "I didn't win because I married well," Amina said. "I won because I stopped believing I deserved less." When she finished, the applause was quiet, but it was real. That evening, Amina and Hassan walked through the same mall, the place where everything had cracked open. Amina's steps slowed as they passed a jewelry kiosk. She glanced down at the floor, half expecting to see tiny socks rolling away again. Nothing was there, just polished tiles. Hassan noticed. You don't have to come back here. Amina smiled softly. I wanted to. They walked past the entrance. No one stared. No one whispered. Just life continuing. They stopped at the baby store. Amina picked up another small pair of socks, this time cream-colored, stitched with tiny moons. She placed them gently in the basket. Hassan smiled. Stars and moons. Good theme. She laughed quietly. At the checkout, the cashier looked at her ring. Congratulations, she said warmly. Amina smiled. Thank you. Months later, the verdict came. Guilty. Assault. Illegal recording. Civil damages awarded. The headlines were smaller this time. No spectacle. Just accountability. Ryan's name faded from relevance. And that, more than anything, was justice. On a quiet night, Amina sat at her desk writing. Not a statement. Not a defense. A letter to herself. She wrote about the woman who begged because she was afraid, and the woman who stood because she was ready. She folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. Hassan appeared in the doorway. You coming? She stood. Yes. They stepped onto the balcony again. The city lights shimmered below. Hassan wrapped an arm around her shoulders. You change more than your own story, he said. Amina leaned into him. I didn't do it alone. Hassan shook his head gently. You did the hardest part. You chose yourself. She smiled, fully this time. Not defiant, not guarded, free, and somewhere far away, the echo of a kick that once tried to reduce her to nothing had been replaced by something stronger. A woman who walked through fire and came out carrying light.